past, but seize the future.
Let me take you to the underworld.
Yeah, I think there's actually a ton of exploration you can do in the sideboards of, well, I mean, the three decks that we've seen are Rune, Shadow, and Sword, and I think that there's a ton of experimentation to do in the sideboards of all three of them. For example, in a matchup like this, maybe having a couple of Momos in your sideboard would be very powerful.
Unfortunately, we don't have DV8 added, so once they go into sideboard, we're gonna make sure he adds us so that we can see his hand as well.
Well, this will make it more exciting, you know. I'll have to guess. What could he have? Ooh.
Could be anything. So really taking his time with this, with their turn ones.
You know, and sometimes it's okay to do that. You just want to kind of map out, all right, what do I think is going to happen? Do I want to play this Lancer, the Hedgehog on turn 2, you know? Give yourself a little bit of extra time.
It's a good opportunity to just figure out what your game plan is going to be for this game. Hedgehog, almost always a happy card to be played on turn 2.
Ooh, and that's a nice juicy target for the Lancer.
Yeah.
This Hedgehog's going to be a 3-face.
Now, one thing that we didn't see from the Reanimate Shadow in the last couple games was a Ceridwen on turn 5. And with that Everdark Strix hitting that Mordecai, that's a scary card. It's a scary proposition.
It definitely is.
And another small interaction, Everdark Strix, the way Burial Rite works is it puts the follower onto the field and then destroys it. So that buffs the Hedgehog just a little bit more.
And I mean, you know, sometimes a 2-2 versus a 2-3 versus a 3-3 is relevant. Interesting. So he decides to not play the Lancer here. It will let him play double 2-drops next turn. So this, you know, could just purely be a play to the curve.
Yeah, it does round out his curve quite a bit better.
Yeah, and I mean with that a Mordecai coming down, you know, trying to go late is looking scary. So, ooh, interesting. All right, so this Hedgehog is just gonna get more and more buffs. Wow. All right, does heal up though.
Yeah, so just ignoring the damage being dealt here. This Lancer is probably going to run right into that Everdark Strix, and we might even see an evolve on this Hedgehog just to push tons of damage here.
Like we said, we know there's no Soul Squashers, right?
Yeah, there's no real punish to that.
So I mean, sure, it can get it can get destroyed by Atroth Curse or a Lurching Corpse, but you know, it's not a punish the same way that Soul Squasher is. You still got your 2 extra damage, and you know they had to use a real card to get rid of it.
It makes Ceridwen will be bad regardless, but it makes Ceridwen not as bad because at least it'll be forced to trade in.
That is true. Wow. Okay. So he's just digging. You know, this could just mean he's already got the thing in hand, and you know, just decided, you know, whatever. I'm just gonna let this Hedgehog get big now. It could also mean he was just desperately digging to get to his Ceridwen. So he says, I'll take 1 extra damage now and give myself 2 extra chances to find the Ceridwen. But I definitely am expecting an evolve on this Hedgehog here.
Yeah, I think this is just a prime Hedgehog evolve here. And I think we're just going to see both these 2 drops get played out. Just fill the curve. No reason to pass here.
Yep. I would absolutely just play them both out. We're just playing beatdown now. I mean, even if a Ceridwen comes down, it has to leave 2 of your things up, right? I mean, because it's pulling a Mordecai. It's not pulling a Zeus.
Yeah, it's gonna
So
say
3 power staying on the board. and then there's an Albert in hand. Or even, you know, a Luminous Mage and evolving the little guy is you know, pretty sweet.
So there's the
Alright,
Sarah
so there's
one.
the Carrot one. And actually, if this goes into the 7-5, it does buff the other Hedgehog.
I'm gonna borrow this.
Let's do this right.
So now
But
the game is
I think
going...
you just, yeah, you have to. You have no choice.
Yeah, that Hedgehog was way too big. You can't leave that thing up.
And I think I would play the Luminous Mage here.
Yeah, you can evolve the Knight, go wide here.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And there's still no. I mean, there could be a Death's Breath coming down next turn. That would be kind of a bummer. But I mean, you have tools to deal with it. You got many followers, and you know, stuff with Rush.
Yeah, as the sword here, you're really put in a position where you just have to figure out how you're either going to... You have to make a decision here where are you going to try to win by evolving this Albert? Or are you going to try to win by... But when I say evolving the Albert, I mean on turn 9, you just get that huge 10 damage burst.
Ah, yes.
Or if you're going to try to smork him down. You can go both routes here too, because this Luminous Mage bridges that gap of acting as a free evolve.
Absolutely. You get to sort of go halvesies here.
Thunder.
Where you put him down to 7 now, and, you know, if he leaves any of these followers on board without putting up a ward, he's dead.
Yeah, put things in perspective there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much has to be Death's Breath at this point. I'm not really seeing it here. And I think he only runs 1 in the main board, right?
There are 2 in the main board. There's 1 on the side.
2, okay. Well, that definitely makes it a little more likely. Okay, but he doesn't have it. Interesting. Okay, all right. Well, this will allow him to potentially full clear.
Take up my shield.
And does he have the? Yeah, his deck is just chock full of those activators, so
All right, well that was a
no
full
surprise there. Definitely, and there is, I believe, 1 Kawi in the main board.
Yeah, there's 1 in the main board, so that'll act as a ward and as a heal if he does get that.
So now he's sort of got to make that tough decision you were talking about earlier, where, you know, he can play this Albert now, you know, just try to smork it face, or he can try to save it, you know, try to get to turn 9 and play it for the guaranteed 10 damage. You know, there's risks involved with both plays.
Yeah, the issue, you don't even have, you're on your turn 6 here, which is super awkward because you want to play your Arthur here, but obviously you can't. So the option that you do have to you aren't really that great. It feels like the best one is Albert Evo face, and just hope you're able to get that extra reach, but that's not really that reliable.
Alright, so Hedgehog plus one of these 4 drops. Looks like it's going to be the Queen. The Queen. Grow his Hedgehog a little. Maybe we'll see an evolve. Okay.
Well, this will give him the widest board possible this turn.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the 1/1 is not enough to threaten lethal on its own. Although, you know, it can sort of do a kind of simulacrum of that over 2 turns by first getting evolved by the Luminous Mage and then playing the Albert evolve.
Yeah, if you do play that Luminous Mage evolve, though, just to push that extra 1 damage, that does telegraph that you're trying to get that Albert in.
It certainly telegraphs pretty darn hard, but...
I think we might just see an attempt to stall to Albert here at this point.
Well, it's going to really depend on what DV8 has here.
Yeah, if he
Because
doesn't
if he
have...
has something like a Kawi, that's going to be rough.
Yeah, if he doesn't have the tools to deal with this, if he's just sitting on a whole bunch of card draw, this might also be really rough for him too. Or if maybe his only removal is something like a Lurching Corpse with a sacrifice. That's really not that reliable.
Alright, Eektar. So now let's see, does he want to go for the full clear, or will he leave the 1-1?
But it was just
Trading your 7-3 into a 1-1 never feels great, but you might.
Definitely not, but... Alright, so it decides not to. Okay, okay. So this does threaten a second or is he running 2 Ektars?
No, there's only one Ektar in the main board, and none in the
Alright,
sideboard.
so that's very interesting, because, you know, I mean, if he recognizes that and says, you know, I'm not scared of lethal next turn, that's definitely a play he can make. And he can try to go for that line of Luminous Mage into Arthur, or into Albert, excuse me.
I wonder if that's what we're gonna see here.
He could play Luminous Mage plus Lancer, evolve the 3-2, trade the 3-2 and the Lancer, which is now a 3-1 into the Ekttar, and then hit face for 2. I mean, that pretty much takes all lethal pressure off of his opponent's board, and sets you up for lethal next turn.
Yeah, the only cards at that point that you would lose to would be any wards like your Death's Breaths or like your Cowies.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the Shadows for Death's Breath anymore.
Oh
He
yeah,
used them on the Ekttar.
you're right.
So it's really just Kawi at this point.
you and I, knight.
Let's see if he decides to go for that line.
Brings hope.
And there's only the one Cowie.
Yes, I think he's gonna do it. I like this a lot.
This is giving him a very clear path to victory for next turn. Oh, he's
Ooh.
deciding to not trade.
Okay. Okay. And I don't mind this either. This is pretty heads up, like we said. There's no second Ekttar, so I don't actually think there's anything that threatens lethal here.
Now, I'm going over the main deck right now, and I actually don't think there is. There would be something like a Zeus being reanimated, but we haven't seen a Zeus die yet, so that can't do it.
So that's pretty sweet. I mean, that's, you know, I think the play is fine either way, but this is very heads up.
Yeah, no, there's nothing in the deck that could be that extra bit of reach that's needed.
I am the Father, the God of all.
Yeah, he can't even reanimate the Zeus. He doesn't have an Evo, and he's not on turn 10 for So Death.
And that by playing that means there's definitely no Cowie. And there is no way to get the shadows for a Death's Breath. So I believe Miss Albert's just going to close it out.
I won't lose again.
Sky Knights.
Sky Knights,
There he is.
prepare for battle. Thunder.
There we go.
A little blood will
All right,
save me.
so he just cleans it up. And so, honestly, some very, very measured, controlled play from the sword player. Very disciplined.
Yeah, the decision to go for that 2-turn lethal, even though you do lose to quite a bit of wards, it's, you know, your opponent doesn't have great odds of playing him, and since he didn't go for a Death's Breath beforehand, you kind of have an idea that maybe he just doesn't have it in hand.
Exactly. I mean, I just, you know, you will lose sometimes, and accepting that and realizing that sometimes it's still not correct to, you know, sometimes you just have to push and pray, right?
Yeah, you have to go play to your outs.
And additionally, I really love when he, you know, made that little cheeky play of not trading, realizing that there's no second Ekttar, there's no lethal threat. That was wonderful. And I mean, we couldn't see DV8's hand, but
Now these players are going toward the sideboards.
excuse me, sorry, I had an interruption there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, you know, DV8 has proven himself to be a great player in the past, so I'm excited to see his hand and kind of see his thought process for the next game.
Now, I think both these players are going to be relying pretty heavily on their sideboards. We saw versus Daria, the Shadowcraft had brought in the test of strengths. We actually never saw the test of strengths, but we did
That
see.
is true.
We saw all 3 of the Mordecais, which makes me believe those test of strengths also came in. So I think versus Sword, which is playing a very similar style of game plan to Daria, where it's just trying to win on the board and push that damage when it can.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the same. I think it's very reasonable to see the second Akawi brought in, to see the test of strengths brought in.
And I think for the Swordcraft, we're going to see quite a bit of the sideboard come in. We have 2 Kunoichi Masters that can come in, a Dance of Death, which is crucial against Zeus's. And then 3 Princess Juliets, 3 Novice Troopers, and 2 Centaur Vanguards. Just a way to turn up the pressure, which is probably a pretty good way to go about this game.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have a sideboard that lets him go long, right? So I would definitely say that he needs to be getting fast, and he needs to be kind of really getting in there if he expects to continue his victories, because the Shadowcraft player will have that. I think what they can bring in the 3rd Death's Breath.
Yeah, there would be a 3rd Death's Breath.
So I mean, the sword player is really going to be having to play for those first 5 turns, I think. Honestly, I think this will be a little bit favored for the Shadow player after this. I mean, it's without having 1-drops. I think it's gonna be pretty tough to really get enough damage in on the first 5 turns that you don't just get blown out by a Death's Breath or something. So, and this is gonna be a tricky game for the sword player, but we'll see how he navigates it. I mean, he navigated the last game beautifully, so.
Alright, so this room is open, and I believe it'll be just a moment before we go in.
Sweet, sweet.
Unless, of course, DV8 might still be sideboarding, trying to figure out what exactly he wants to bring in. The North American Open Grand Champion is here, and we are going to be going into this game in just a moment. These players are just deciding who's going to be going first and second, and then they're going to be starting. Usually the decision is the person who gets to choose usually wants to go first, but occasionally we see there's a change of thought there. Alright, and we are getting right into this game.
Bear the past, but seize the future.
Let me take you to the underworld.
All right. So White Paladin still in the deck is the first thing I noticed.
So we didn't see those Juliets come in potentially. Maybe they still are in, but I would imagine if you're going to be bringing them in, you want to be only pulling Juliets off your round tables.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assumption. So, I mean, it's very possible that he just decided, you know what? I won the first game. My plan worked. I'm just, you know, not gonna. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. There's a roundtable assembly though.
I still imagine at least some of the cards came in. Something like maybe I feel the Konoichi Master is pretty good in this matchup.
Well, it can be good, or it can get eaten by a lurching corpse.
Yeah, only one half would get eaten by a lurching corpse though.
That is true. Well, the Shadow player is only missing a good reanimation target for this hand to be very explosive. If he draws one right here, it's going to be... Alright, missed. Wah, wah. Now the hand's looking pretty awkward.
Yeah, something like the Zombie Party might be what we see here. Though the Everdark Strix is pretty good too. It'll contest, but
The problem is, what do you throw away here?
you don't have anything that you really want to throw away quite yet. You do have that Ceridwen. You're really hoping to draw into something to throw away to that Everdark Strix next turn so you can get that clean Ceridwen. So maybe we do just see that Zombie Party this turn.
Oh, alright. Decides he doesn't want to risk it. He doesn't want to go for that. Oh, no. He would have gotten it.
But you know, Ceridwen pulling an Aisha really isn't that terrible. You get 2/5/4 rushes. That's a pretty good tempo swing.
It is not terrible. You're right. I would say slightly worse than pulling a Kawi, but, you know, definitely not the worst play you could make. Oh, no.
Well, to be fair, that Zeus wouldn't have been in his hand had he not cycled with that Everdark Strix.
But, no, because the Kawi didn't come off the top, right? The Kawi's a random Shadowcraft follow from his deck, so, I mean, you know, can't exactly say this, oh, the Zeus was on top or not, because it's a digital card game, but it does still feel rough to see that happen.
Now, there's potential for the Frontline Cavalier and Evolve, which I think that's what we're going to see here. And actually, there isn't a very clean answer to that. The Ceridwen will be able to go over that and bring back an Aisha, but that's not... You leave behind a 5-3 and you leave your opponent up with a 1-2? Not that great.
Definitely not, like, the power play that we expect from Reanimate Shadow.
Strike!
Victory or death!
Lovely day for a fight!
Eat up.
So really thinking about this decision, now that he has his Gloomy Necromancer, he might just opt to play the Gloomy and try to go for the Ceridwen the next turn.
I mean, it's hard to argue against the Zeus in your hand, but it's also hard to argue against that many sets on the board.
Yeah, there's really nothing that goes along with this Gloomy very well. There's the Demon Eater, but that actually lowers the stats you have on the board.
Show
too.
am the Father, the God of all.
Food should act like food.
The void, it beckons me.
So you ended up going with the line where he just gets the Zeus set up now. But this is really, you're falling very far behind on the board like this. Now here, I think the consideration is, what do you want to do between either your Celia or your Albert? I feel like the Albert here is probably the stronger play. It'll push lots of damage here.
It's not enough.
Steady goes for the round tables though. That's gonna get him 2 Marses. It's also pretty hard to deal with.
Thunder.
Till I turn to ash and vanish.
I'm stuffed. Ow, ow. Ugh. Gimme. It's you I want. Playtime starts now. I'm gonna borrow this.
I am the Father, the God of all.
So that Zeus is gonna come down now. It's a little slow though, it feels like. And having it.
It's not enough yet. All burnt out. All burnt out.
He's gonna be able to trade away quite a bit of this. But now that Zeus is heavily injured. Lancer, the regular Lancer will be able to trade into the Zeus, but it will die because of how Bane interacts with being invulnerable to damage.
Heat up.
Hello?
Yeah.
You have your mic muted.
You forget.
Alright, there you go.
Alright. Are you back?
Are you good? You can see everything?
I can hear you.
It's you
Great.
I want.
And you should be able to see in just a moment.
Ready or not.
Alrighty, yeah. I can see it now.
Perfect.
I'm gonna borrow this.
Sorry about that little hiccup, everyone. So, now we have a second Zeus coming down. That third one is very timely.
Will I use something?
Oh boy, things have changed a lot since I was last in the call. Oh, and I think I lost the video. It's coming back.
Yeah, you should be
There we
good.
go.
So these
this
Celias
is-
have just been kind of rotting away in the hands here.
This is rough. There's a lot of wardage going on the other side. There's a Zeus right here. There's a Kawi in the hand, and I mean, just between those two, that's gonna fight it off for a while.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to break through all of these wards. And the longer this game goes, the more likely it is for cards like anything that can reanimate more Zeuses, just going to give more time for something like that to happen.
That being said, this is a pretty nice play.
Yeah, White Paladin with a Mars is always able to get a lot of stats on the board.
It's not enough yet.
Forget me. Just spare the mistress.
Yeah, so a lot of storm damage in hand, but a frustrating number of wards.
Yeah, triple Celia and your Albert. That's all the storm you're going to need. This is going to clean up a lot of this board. If not the whole thing, if he decides to trade with that Ceridwen.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because, you know, if he doesn't, then the Mars can trade in and leave the face open. Which definitely can be scary. Although there is, of course, the Kawi, so he could, you know, potentially try to bait that play.
Now, we saw that the decision was made to not bring in, or to not take out the Mars and the White Paladins. And we did see that turn where that Roundtable Assembly was played on turn 5, and there were no wards on the table there. We would have been able to push a clean amount of damage to the face there, but instead, he just got some kind of slow followers, and that might end up doing him in here.
Yeah, I mean, it really might. It's rough. That was, I mean, you know, it's never terrible to play Mars White Paladin, but it really didn't do what he wanted it to do here.
Yeah, and just Celia to trade here into that ward.
Ugh.
It's not exactly what you want to be doing here.
The gods have been outright.
And I suspect this, well, we'll see if he decides to play it out, but I think this Kawi is probably good enough to prompt a forfeit. Or the Death Dragon Caller at this point.
Yeah, at this point, honestly, just with what we see in the hand of the Swordcraft, they can't deal with another ward. Even if there wasn't another ward, they're losing the damage race here.
God of all.
Yep, very much. Yeah, maybe he'll draw his card, see what he gets. But I don't really know that there's a card that'll get him out of this.
Yeah, Arthur is not going to be that card.
Nope. Good card, but not good enough.
But it's going to try. It's going to try to get there. It's going to get 2 wards. And I assume it's going to promptly lose the game. Unless something really crazy happens here.
It has a stroke.
Not the way you want to lose your card games.
Definitely not. Yep, alright. So taking it to game 3.
So I wonder if we're going to see maybe some, especially from Globani, I'd like to see him just take a look at his sideboard, really think about it. Maybe he does want to bring in some of his more aggressive cards to try to close this game out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely consideration. DV8 definitely, you know, demonstrating that hey buddy, if the game goes long, I'm gonna take over. And he definitely did. You know, a lot of his power cards have ward, which makes the sort of just wait it out until Albert plan really unreliable.
So none of these players have left the lobby yet, so maybe they're still deciding if they want to do something about their sideboard.
Yeah, it is curious. We'll see.
Yeah, it seems like the players are asking if they're allowed to sideboard again, which they are. Very late in the in the semifinals of the tournament to be asking that question.
A little late to be asking that one. It is indeed in the rules.
So it seems like both these players are deciding to sideboard a bit.
And like we've said before, I think that's definitely the correct choice. Even if you end up not changing anything, it's always good to go back, look over your deck, just at least rethink through your logic for all right, why did I choose this plan? Do I still agree with why I chose it?
The message that it sends to your opponent just when you decide to sideboard, it tells your opponent that I might be changing something in my deck, and if I am doing that, you need to prepare for that as well.
Exactly.
So we should have this game code in just a second. Players are taking their time with finding out what this code is. There we go. We finally have it. Alright, so we're going into game 3 here. So out of these two players, who do you think is more likely poised to win this one, just with the decks that we have?
I think I got to go with DV8 just because that last game looked, he had a pretty commanding grasp of the game. The first game, definitely Globani played it excellently, but as we kept mentioning, all right, well, if DV8 draws X card or just has X card in his hand, this game gets really, really hard. So I just think he has a ton of outs to what Globani is trying to do, and Globani, if DV8 finds those outs, he doesn't really have that many options.
I think I'm inclined to agree with you. I feel like the sword deck is trying to take this long game, but it's not able to compete with very cheap Zeuses and other cheap, just powerful followers that are able to have these swingy effects.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
playing more of a fair game than what the Shadow is doing.
All right, so we've got two of the three pieces of the reanimated Zeus on 5 combo. See if you can find the Caradwin now.
So here there's a couple options. I think the best option is going to be Gloomy Necromancer here, though. Get that Zeus started as soon as possible so that you don't have to worry about it later on.
Show me your death.
Yeah, and that is the Gloomy that we're going to see.
The god of all.
Yep. It you know, contests the board, puts a Zeus in the graveyard, digs him towards his Caradwin. Everything he wants to do. Ooh, and there is a Momo. It's a nice draw.
Yeah, it's a clean way to deal with something like a Zeus once he gets to it.
Don't get too
I wonder if this is going to grab a
Yeah, I
Holy
mean-
Pure Bomb. Yeah, and it does. To deal with something like...
Ooh, alright, yeah.
Getting-
Very heads-up play in the matchup.
Yeah, getting ready for that Zeus, or getting ready for that Cowie. I like it.
Wow. Just passes.
I wonder why he doesn't decide to play Illyrial or something like that there. What do you think
Very
the reason
weird.
for that is?
I don't know, especially with 2 Lyrials in hand. Just passing is... Oh, you know what it is? He thought that the sword player took Queen Chimera.
Oh,
Yeah. Which is kind of the typical card to take.
yeah, you don't usually see the Black Queen taken, and that interaction ended up going
I didn't
very
even register
interestingly.
that he had taken the Black Queen there. I'm not sure it's going to do very much here against the hard removal, but, you know, kind of a cool little, you know, cheeky little play.
It definitely got the reaction he was hoping to get out of it.
It certainly did. That being said, I mean, you know, I guess it gave him a turn 4 play. You know, if you have the White Queen there, you feel a little awkward running it on turn 4. Whereas, you know, I mean, the Black Queen here is... Ooh, actually, he went for the 50-50. Is he going to get it?
He gets it.
Oh, well, that's big.
If he didn't
is
go for
big.
that Demon Eater, I was gonna ask you, what do you think the chances we're gonna see that Holy Pure Bomb on the Lurching Corpse is?
I think it's pretty low. I mean, the Lurching Corpse... I was thinking he was going to go Lurching Corpse, Trust Curse. Just, you know, clear it out. Don't play around. But, you know, he decided that, nope, he liked his odds today. He was feeling lucky.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to take those risks. You have to know when it's time. When you can give up a little bit of points if you lose the roll, and when you need to go for that roll.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, so now he's got a couple of options here. Round Table is definitely one of them. Frontline Cavalier probably the other biggest consideration. Could also see something like a Valse plus a Hedgehog and an Evolve.
I think the two closest ones are the Round Tables and the Frontline Cavalier here.
Yeah.
The battle is far from
The
Okay, so
Cavalier
I'll show
ends
the
up being
Frontline
the option.
Cavalier. That's fine.
Strike.
This will not, you know, Lyrial does pretty much nothing here.
I'm stuffed.
And there's a Ceridwen.
Oh,
Taking no time.
right off the top. Oh my goodness.
He took no time to play that
That
there.
is brutal.
I'm gonna borrow.
Alright, well, Momo's gonna show us her thing.
The god of all.
Now,
She's gonna show us how she hunts Greek gods.
and that trade is beautiful there. Playing around the Momo instead of just sending that to
Absolutely.
face and trading with the Saradwin.
Momo Zeus Hunter.
Getting these turn 5 10 drops plus a free 5/4 rush, not always the best, not always that difficult to deal with, apparently, says Momo.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still gonna be hard to get that tempo back. I mean, he's almost wishing he had taken that fatal spellbomb here. He could go Hedgehog, Momo, spellbomb the 5/3.
Spellbomb would be very helpful here. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
Especially with the second Vulse in hand. I mean, yeah, this is rough. Maybe feeling a little silly.
Yeah, and you look at the hands of the Shadow here, and there's that Death Dragon Caller waiting to come down. There's an Ektar waiting. There's 2 Cowies waiting. There's just so much stall here.
Yikes. And this is definitely the feels bad play, where you ended up taking a spell bomb anyway, but you took the pure bomb first, and now you regret it.
Yeah, and now your opponent can just flood with a whole bunch of 2-drops here.
Yeah, and we're out of Evos, so this roundtable assembly, you know, might pull Mars White Paladin, but not going to get that sick evolve.
Yeah, no, it's not really going to do too much at all.
My boss works us to the bone. My boss works us to the bone.
So Globani's looking like he's in trouble here.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's going to have to make some magic happen to get this one back in his favor. He's staring down Kawi, Iktar, Death Dragon Caller. I mean, like, come on.
That Death Dragon Caller is going to be bringing back his Zeus, no hesitation.
Like, you know, I'm not a gambling man, but I think I'd be willing to bet on DV8 at this point.
So here you can go Roundtable's Assembly, maybe pull double Mars and play a Bladed Hedgehog, but it's not that great. Not that great with what you know your opponent might have next turn.
Not quite. It's not enough yet.
That ends up being the decision here too.
If only we still had an Evo. No.
No, well, I mean, the turns that he played as Evos, he kind of had to, it felt like. Otherwise, he would just be taking a lot of damage or just falling quite a bit behind.
Yeah, I mean, I think taking the pure bomb over the spell bomb is really kind of what sealed this one for me. I mean, if he had been able to play like Hedgehog, Hedgehog, Momo, spell bomb on his turn 6, I think he would still be in this game. But it still would have been very hard. I mean, he would have had to fight through all this nonsense regardless.
He would have felt a lot more comfortable had that been the line he went with. But now here, what do? You can trade with your Illyrial, and then you can trade with the Lurching Corpse. He decides to just go with the Lurching Corpse right away.
This head can't be taken.
So goes for Ektar. I mean, he's still so high on health that, I mean, what does he even care? He doesn't need to put a Kawi down. His opponent needs to put a Kawi down.
Why play a Kawi when you can just start pushing face damage and take control of the board?
Right, exactly.
You have your Death Dragon Caller next turn. That's gonna summon a Zeus. That's 5 damage that can go right to the dome.
Oh no, and it's just all falling apart.
Yeah, Luminous Mage, not exactly what you want to see
It's
here.
all unraveling.
At this point, most of the options that the Sword player is going to be getting are just going to be a little slow to deal with this 5/6. You're going to be about a turn behind almost all the turns here, and it's just going to be very difficult to come back here.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have enough answers, even were he to start just from moving things.
He
He's
needs
got
to,
one Holy Pure Bomb, and his opponent has Zeus, Kawi Kawi,
he
and an
needs to
Eek's
be
already on board.
he needs to be drawing something like 2 Momos a turn.
Very true.
You and I, knight.
Momo, I don't even think Momo can kill Kawi, right?
No, Kawi has 4 attack. It can kill an evolved Kawi though.
That's true.
Will decide things.
Turn the power of hope to light.
This will decide things. You know, I'm unfortunately just not sure it will.
Pretty nice zombie party, but I don't think you have to go for that here.
I mean, I think you can more or less go for whatever you want at this point.
Yeah, a lot
I
of
mean,
your
as long
options
as
are
you
pretty
don't,
good here.
as long as you don't leave yourself dead to Albert, you're good to go.
Taking his time, making sure he knows what he wants to do here. Goes with the
Yeah,
zombie
you,
party
you
here.
probably don't want to leave everything up. That seems a little risky, but
If you commit your last evolve, you get a full clear while leaving a very strong board for yourself up. Really taking his time deciding if he wants to commit this last evolve or not.
I won't lose again.
it was interesting ordering.
Yeah.
This is just gonna leave the headshot up.
Yeah, he's just leaving it
Right.
up. He doesn't care about the 3 damage he's taking. Maybe saying he wants to leave something somewhat powerful up, just so that he has a pretty nice Kawi target.
I mean, I think he's probably just gonna win with Zeus next turn.
Definitely possible. Zeus is going to be 7 points of storm damage with that evolve.
It's gonna be fairly rough to take enough damage off the board to stop that from killing.
This will just take a second.
That pure bomb finally being able to get played, but on an Ektar is the
Yeah,
lowest
not
value
a-
target you could have. The lowest value big target you could have gotten with that.
Alright, well, I don't think Zeus is lethal, so play ball.
Yeah, you're 2 off with that ward.
So light.
But I mean, I think at this point,
The god of all.
he's really just looking for DV8 to make a mistake, and DV8's just not giving him one.
Yeah, and even
I
with
think
the
that's pretty
mistake,
much the only way. Yeah,
mistake has to be something like.
I mean,
pretty
I think at this
crucial.
point,
Like
it would
past 2
have
turns.
to be. Yeah, yeah, right. But I mean, earlier in the game, you know, he did have a couple opportunities to mess up. I mean, I didn't expect him to, but you know, you got to play to your outs. But yeah, it's over.
Here's where you show
Alright.
Celia into storm mode, into Celia into storm mode, concede.
Yeah, that seems like about the play.
My fight. It's not enough yet.
Almost goes
Nope.
for that play. Almost. He's gonna go for the play that allows him to clear off the Zeus.
Almost clear the Zeus.
Does the Mars proc? Mars doesn't proc?
I have no idea actually.
That
Guess we're
that
gonna
matters
find
if
out.
we wanna
Oh.
clear this.
Right.
It's not enough
Well,
yet.
he's
It's
not
enough
doing
yet.
that.
It's not enough yet. It's not enough
Unfortunately,
yet.
only one of
It's
these
not enough
followers has
yet.
ward.
It's not enough
This is
yet.
a juicy looking play, but not
Too-
enough.
Too little, too late.
Yeah.
And we're gonna
Oh,
see
that's another
So Death
Zeus.
Replay just to get that free Zeus. We might see that.
Time to retreat. No power.
Nope.
It's the real
DV8,
Respectful DV8 just kills him.
Man of Honor. Doesn't like to show him the extra Zeus.